This is day 7 of 30 GIMP tutorials, and in this tutorial you're going to discover how to create a killer YouTube thumbnail that gets clicks. Plus, if you stick around till the end, I have a special bonus. So if you're ready, let's do it. So we have 3 image files that we need to download and add to our design. But first we need to create a new document. So let's go up to File and click on New. So the recommended size for your YouTube thumbnails per YouTube or Google is 1280 by 720. In the advanced options here, I am going to set my fill width to my foreground color. I'm going to come over here to my foreground color swatch, and I want to use this color right here for the background. So to use the same color, type in this hexadecimal number right here, click OK. Click OK again, and you have your new document. Now it's a little bit larger than the interface, at least for me. So I'm going to hold down Control, then hit Shift plus J to resize it to fit inside of the canvas. So once you have those image files downloaded, go ahead and select all of them, click and drag them over your interface, and they will automatically be added into your GIMP document as new layers. Now we need to resize them smaller because they're a lot larger than our canvas. So we're going to grab our scale tool from our toolbar, or you can use the keyboard shortcut, which is Shift plus S. Now if you're not seeing this icon in your toolbar, it might be this one here because that's the one that's set by default. So either right click, choose it from here, or Shift plus S. So I have the YouTube logo selected automatically because that was the last layer to come into the document. So if I just click on this, I then get my scale tool options up here. So I'm going to double click inside of height here, and I'm going to set it to 125 for the height. Make sure you have this icon turned on or linked together so that it will automatically adjust the width for you when you click your tab key. This will keep it in proportion to the original file. Go ahead and click Scale, and now our logo has disappeared. So why is that? Well, let's grab our zoom tool with the letter Z. Hold down your Control key and click a couple times on your image until you see this little yellow box right here. That's our logo. So it was resized and repositioned over here. So we're going to grab our move tool with the letter M. We're going to click on this and move it back. All right, we're going to stay zoomed out so we can work on our next image here, which is the image of our old guy here. So make sure you have that layer selected. Shift plus S to get your scale tool. And for the height for this image, I'm going to do 1600. Hit your tab key, click Scale. All right, so that one's disappeared as well. So zoom tool again with the letter Z, Control key, and click a couple times. Let's grab our move tool with the letter M. Click and drag into position. So right about there. I'm going to go ahead and press Control, Shift, and J to zoom all the way back in. Next, I'm going to grab my GIMP logo here, which I can't see at the moment. So I'm going to click and drag this up above the old guy. Shift plus S. And then for the height, I'm going to set this to 150. Click your tab key, and it looks like it's right here. And then Scale, M for the move tool, click. And it looks like I can't get to it, so I'm going to hold down my space bar so I can navigate over here. Now I can click on it. Control Shift J again. And I'm going to put the GIMP logo down here. His name is Wilbur, by the way. And for the moment, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the GIMP logo and the YouTube logo. I want to select the old guy image layer here because what I want to do now is remove the background and his hand from the design. So the first thing we're going to do is make a selection and then remove the background and his hand non-destructively. So let me show you how we're going to do that. So we're going to use the Select by Color tool, and by default you're going to see the magic wand tool or the fuzzy select tool here. So right click here and select Select by Color, or click Shift plus O to activate it. And then we're just going to click anywhere on the background to start the selection process. Now the amount of selection that you have may be different from mine, And that may be due to the options that you have set up in the tool options. So I have threshold set to right around 12, which is going to increase or decrease the amount of selection based on the color that I clicked on. So we have part of the background here that still needs to be part of the selection. So to add to it, we're going to hold down our Shift key, and then when I click in this area, it's going to add to the selection. So I have another little piece here, so I'm going to hold down Shift and click again. And then I'm going to come over here, Shift and click a couple other times to make sure that I have other parts of the image selected as well. Next, I'm going to come up here and grab my free select tool, which you can grab with the letter F. And we're going to hold down our Shift key and draw around his hand to add that as part of the selection. I'm going to go back to the original point where I started until I see this little yellow circle. Once I release my Shift key and my mouse button, it will close that and add it to the selection once I hit my Enter or Return key. Now that we have everything selected, it looks like I have a little piece right here that's not part of the selection, but I'm going to show you how to fine-tune your selection after we remove everything that's already selected. And we're going to do that by coming over here and clicking right here to add a layer mask in white. Click Add, and nothing happened. All right, so this is what we have to do. We have to come over here and click on this little icon right here to set the foreground color to black. We actually need it set to the background color, so I'm going to click these double arrows here. And then I'm going to hit my delete key or my backspace key if you're on a PC, and boom, everything disappears. How cool is that? So if you take a look at your layer mask here, you can see the black and the white on the layer mask. So black removes, white adds. Let's go ahead and deselect. We're going to go up to Select and click on None. The keyboard shortcut for that is Shift plus Control or Command if you're on a Mac plus A. All right, I'm going to grab my zoom tool again with the letter Z here, and I'm going to zoom in because we have a couple other spots here that need to be touched up and removed. So we're going to grab our paintbrush tool with the letter P. You can also find it right here on your toolbar. And we're going to paint with black because black removes. So we're going to switch our foreground and background colors again by clicking right here, or you can just press the letter X to switch back and forth. Now I can paint with black on the image here to remove any part of the image that needs to be removed. So this is working non-destructively. If we come over here and delete this layer mask, the original image will be restored. So at all times, I recommend working non-destructively. That way, if you make a mistake, it's easy to go back and fix it. So I'm going to go ahead and just touch up a couple more parts of this image. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this and make it perfect because we have a lot of other things to cover. And I don't think you want to be here all day. So I think you kind of get the idea on how this works. So next, let's go ahead and zoom all the way out with Control, Shift, and J to add the image back to the interface. Now I'm seeing part of the background over here on this side, and if we go up to Layer and select Layer to Image Size, that will change the layer boundary and will reveal the other part of the background that we need to get rid of, and I have a little piece up here as well. All right, now that we have that done, and let's go ahead and turn on the other two. And the next step is to create our text. So step 2, grab your text tool with the letter T. So in the tool options here, I've set my font to Railway Ultra Bold. You probably don't have this one installed unless you watch one of my other video tutorials. I like to use this font a lot, and best of all, it's free. So you can get this font from Google. Go to font.google.com and do a search for Railway, and you can go ahead and install that. And I have a tutorial that will show you how to install fonts as well, so check that out in the description below. So the size I'm going to set to 125 for a couple of words, and then I'm going to change the sizes for a couple other sentences. So I'm just going to come over here. Actually, I need to come in here and choose a new color. I'm just going to type in F7, 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 which is an off-white color. And then I'm going to type out create for my first banner. I'm going to hit my escape key to deactivate the tool, and then I can grab my move tool with the letter M. So this one's going to be up here. I'm going to grab my text tool again with the letter T. And let's go ahead and type out killer, escape key, letter M, and move it into position. Now if you're clicking on these different layers here on your canvas and it's not moving the one that you're clicking on, go to your tool options and make sure you have pick a layer or guide selected. Otherwise, if you have this one, it's only going to move the active layer. All right, text tool again with the letter T. I'm going to size this one to 100. Needs to be a little bit smaller because we're going to put a sentence underneath it. So I'm going to type out thumbnails, escape key, letter M, and move it into position. I'm going to move this guy down just a little bit more. All right, text tool again, and this time we're going to size it to 30. And let's type out that get clicks, exclamation point, and escape key. And the move tool once again, I'm going to move this into position right there. I want this one to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to lower the opacity to right around 50 so it's not competing with that word thumbnails right above. So something like that. Doesn't have to be perfectly aligned yet because we're going to create our banners in step 3, which is coming up right now, and then we will reposition all the text accordingly. Now, as you may or may not know, we do not have a shape tool in GIMP. I know, disappointing. So I'm going to show you how to create a shape for your banners, and you may want to check out a couple other tutorials that I have that show you how to make different types of shapes. So the first thing we need to do to create a shape is create a new layer. So I'm going to click right here. Let's call this banner 1. Make sure you have fill width set to transparency and click OK. We now need to create a shape with a selection tool, and we're going to use our rectangle select tool, which is right here. You can also activate it with the letter R. Now, as far as the size of the banners, they're all going to be pretty much the same height. Some will be longer than others, and I want to start right over here at the 0 mark, which I can see on my rulers here. So if you're not seeing the rulers, go up to View and select Show Rulers right here. So I'm going to click right here and drag out so that the line aligns with 200 right here and 500 over here. It doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to transform these banners from plain, boring rectangles into more creative, artistic, fun type of banners with slants and angles. So it doesn't really matter what size it is. So we're gonna go ahead and fill this in now with a color. I'm gonna go ahead and click on my foreground color swatch here, and I'm going to type in 333333. Once I click my tab key, I get this nice dark gray color. Go ahead and click OK. Let's grab our bucket fill tool right here. Right click, and you got Shift plus B for the keyboard shortcut. Once you click inside of that selection, you now have your shape. We need to deselect now by going up to Select and clicking on None, or using Shift plus Control or Command if you're on a Mac plus A. That's shape number 1. Let's create 3 more. So again, we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to call it Banner 2. Click OK. For the next shape, let's grab our rectangle tool here. I'm going to make it about the same height and a little bit longer. So for this next one, I'm going to make it about 600 pixels wide. Back to the bucket fill tool with Shift plus B and fill it in. Deselect, Control, Shift plus A. All right, let's create our third banner here. I'm going to press the letter R to get my selection tool here, and this next one is going to be a little bit longer again. So 700, Shift plus B, and fill it in. Deselect, Control Shift A. All right, one more. I think you're getting the hang of this now, so we're going to call this Banner 4. Back to our selection tool, and we're going to make this one, yep, 800 pixels wide. So right about there. Shift plus B and fill. Control Shift A, deselect. All right, that is step 3. Let's go ahead and grab our move tool, and we're going to move these into position. So right about there and right about there. Now I did make a mistake. This banner right here should be white. So let's fix it. Let's click on the layer to select it. And there's 2 different ways you can fix it. You can either use the bucket fill tool to fill it in, but if you do that and if you have angles on your shape, then it's going to be softer or pixelated versus this method, which is to go up to colors and select colorize. I'm going to click here and select white, click OK, OK again, and now I have a white color shape. All right, step number 4. Are you ready for some fun? Because we are now going to transform these boring rectangles into something a little bit more fun, and we're going to add some strokes and drop shadows. Oh my, let's do it. All right, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my move tool. I'm going to click on this rectangle here so I can select it. I'm going to click and drag this all the way up to the top. I also need to find that first set of text that I created. So click and drag all the way back up above the banner so we can actually see it. All right, let's go ahead and click on our banner 1 layer here to select it. And we need to adjust the layer boundary, which is this black and yellow dotted line that goes all the way around the canvas. We need to crop it to the banner itself. So we're going to go up to layer and select crop to content. And now that layer boundary is confined to that shape. And let's transform our shape from ordinary to extraordinary with our unified transform tool. So if you go up to tools, transform tools, you can select unified transform from here or shift plus T to activate it that way. If you grab it from your toolbar here, it will not automatically activate the tool. You will need to click on your banner to activate it. When you do, you're going to see all these different shapes on your image. And each of them will manipulate your shape based on your creative vision. So these in the middle here, top and bottom, left and right, will resize it larger or smaller. The corners will allow you to adjust the angle like this or to the right. And then these white diamonds here will allow you to shift the horizontal or vertical plane for that shape. So I'm going to drag this one up and I'm going to drag this one over to the right just a little bit more. And I may want to make this a little bit shorter. I'm going to actually use these instead of the resize because I don't want to make it too small. I just want to make it shorter. So something like that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and click transform to commit to that shape. Let's go ahead and do the same thing now for our other banners. And first, let's go ahead and grab our move tool so we can locate this banner. And I'm going to move it up here as well. I just want to get everything organized. Now remember, before you begin transforming the shape, you want to go up to layer and select crop to content. And then you can activate your tool with shift plus T and then reshape it according to your creative vision. Now I want to get this little node right here and I can't get to it, so I'm going to click right here on this to detach that panel. And now I can access this one. I'm going to actually make this one a little bit longer, so something like that, a little bit shorter on this side, and click transform. All right, let's go ahead and make adjustments to our other banners as well. I'm going to go ahead and speed up this part of the tutorial as I finish these 2 banners. Since you know how to do this now, you can go ahead and complete it as well. All right, now that we have our banners done, let's go ahead and make some adjustments to the position of our layers. I'm going to grab the old guy here. I'm going to drag him all the way up here to the top because I want him to be in front of all the banners. And then I'm going to use my move tool to select and move my content based on where I want to position it. So I'm going to go back to banner 4 here, and with Shift plus T, I'm going to reactivate the tool so I can make this a little bit larger because my content isn't fitting in there very nicely. So it's still kind of tight, so I'm going to grab my text tool with the letter T, double click on thumbnail, and I'm going to drop this down to 80 pixels. Once I click the tab key, it's going to update. That's too small, so I'm going to go back up a little bit to 90, hit my escape key, and then with the move tool with the letter M, I can go ahead and move this into position. I also want to add ... as well. All right, that's looking pretty good. All right, let's add some strokes around our banners now. I'm going to go ahead and grab my banner 1 layer first. And what we need to do now is we need to increase the layer boundary size so that our stroke doesn't get cut off. I'm going to actually move this banner down a little bit because it's being cut off at the top of the canvas here. And then I'm going to go up to layer and select layer to image size, and that increases the layer boundary. Now I can go ahead and reposition this back to where it was before. Now we do have a stroke tool in GIMP, but it's not very smooth. It ends up pixelating or making the edges very soft on angles and curves. So I'm going to show you my preferred method of creating strokes. Let's come over to the layer panel here and right click on the banner 1 layer and select alpha to selection, and that's going to auto apply a selection around our shape. Now let's go up to select and click on to path. All right, so it doesn't look like it did anything, but what it did is it took our selection and converted it to a path, which will allow us to add a stroke to it, which will be a much cleaner, smoother stroke versus the stroke tool. So let's go ahead and stroke our path now by going up to Edit and selecting Stroke Path. Make sure you have solid color selected. For the line width, I'm going to set this to 12 pixels. You can change the line style from here if you want. I want a solid line, so I'm going to go ahead and click Line. And I need to choose my color before I stroke it. So I'm going to come over here to my foreground color. And I'm going to use this yellow color right here. Here's the hexadecimal number if you want to use the same color. Go ahead and click OK, and then click Stroke, and boom, you have a stroke. Let's deselect with Control Shift plus A. Now I'm going to go ahead and repeat that for the other 3 banners. Now for this banner, I'm going to change the color from yellow to a bright red color. Actually, I want to use the same color as the YouTube logo. So I'm going to click right here to grab my eyedropper tool. And then once I click right here, it's going to sample that color and add it to the foreground color swatch here. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then I can go ahead and stroke it. Next, we're going to add our drop shadow. So let's go back and select our banner 1 layer here. We're going to go up to Filters, Light and Shadow, and select Drop Shadow. For the size, I'm going to drop this down to around 6. I'm also going to drop the blur radius down to around 3. And I'm going to set the grow radius to, let's say, -40. And of course, you can set these to anything you like based on your creative vision. This is what I prefer. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that, and I'm going to click OK. I'm going to grab banner number 2. I'm going to go up to Filters and click on Repeat Drop Shadow so I can get the exact same settings for that banner as well. So let's go ahead and apply the drop shadow to banner 3 and banner 4. Now the last thing we have is adding the 3 strokes to our old guy here. And before we do that, I want to point something out. I'm going to grab my zoom tool and I'm going to zoom in, because if you take a look along the edge of his hair here and the rest of them, it's pretty soft in most areas. So this is a much harder edge versus his hair, and that's because I was using a soft edged brush to tweak and update the edit on the layer mask. So if we don't fix that now, that means the edges of our strokes are going to be soft, which is okay if that's what you want. But if you want a hard edge, you need to add a hard edge to him as well to get it in the strokes. So to fix that, we're going to come up here to our old guy layer mask here. We're going to select our layer mask by clicking on it. We're going to grab our fuzzy select tool right here, or with the letter U, and we're going to click on him to make a selection. So now you can see that the selection is along his hairline here, and this color here is more of that background that we had previously. Now I do have my threshold set to around 42, so make sure you have that set to that as well. Now we need to go up to select and click on invert so we can get rid of this part. We're going to switch our background color here to black, click OK, and then hit your delete or backspace key and then deselect, and now you can see we now have a much harder edge. Hold down Ctrl Shift plus J to zoom all the way out. Now to add the strokes, we're going to come over here and duplicate this image layer. Let's go ahead and turn this one off because we don't need it. Now we need to merge the layer mask with the image layer itself by right-clicking and selecting Apply Layer Mask. Now let's make a selection by right-clicking and choosing Alpha to Selection. We're going to grow that selection now to make it larger to create that stroke. And we're going to go up to Select and click on Grow. We're going to set it to 10 pixels and click OK, which grows that selection. Now let's create a new layer called Black Stroke. Fill it with transparency and click OK. Let's go ahead and move that layer below the image layer. Grab your bucket fill tool with Shift plus B. Make sure your foreground color swatch here is set to black, and then fill in that color and deselect. Control Shift A, and we have our first stroke. Let's go ahead and repeat that process 2 more times. Actually, we shouldn't have deselected. So let's go ahead and undo that with Command or Control plus Z to get our selection back. Because what we're going to do now is just go up to Select and click on Grow to grow it by another 10 pixels. I'm going to click on this layer here before I create a new layer so it's placed above it, and I'm going to call this Red Stroke. Hit your Enter or Return key and navigate to your color picker here to pick out your red color and go ahead and fill it in. And I'm going to grow it 1 more time. I'm going to switch to my yellow color here, and let's create a new layer called, Yellow Stroke. Now if you were wondering about that extra bonus that I had, I guess now would be as good of a time as any to tell you the bonus. So my bonus to you is you can get my original design right here in all its glory as a template for free, so you don't have to recreate all these banners. But even if you came through this entire tutorial, you now know how to do it yourself, so you can create your own custom banners and strokes and drop shadows. So to get my template, check out the link in the description below. Actually, where you downloaded these images is the same place where you can get this template. So check that out. And if you want to learn how to create your own custom YouTube banner artwork for the top part of your YouTube channel, check out that video right there to your left. Thanks for listening and have an awesome day.